There's a lot of sirens now. All right. Bringing up this. Okay. So I know I go through this almost every time, but it honestly, for anybody new, this is the vision that I'm shooting for. I mean, it's a little bit cartoony, but this is sort of this is what I'm shooting for. To explain HTM, sort of in the context of neurobiology, I want, and I'm not going to use these exact graphics or anything, but this is the direction I want to come into this spatial pooling conversation, talking about something that's happening in one layer of a cortical column, or at least with one type of cell in a cortical column, and how it handles feed-forward input and its relationship with feed-forward input. The idea then to create an input space, saying you can only sample from so much of the feed-forward input, and to talk about the mini-column competition that will be occurring within one of these spaces. And so the first part of that is taking just one of these mini-columns and sort of breaking out its relationship to the input space. I'm not sure if what I said right here, I haven't run this by anybody who has better neurological knowledge than I do, but if these may not be going in the right direction, I don't know. But essentially each one of these mini columns like this has a potential pool of input that it might get connected to. It can't connect to everything in the space, so you have to, biologically, it will never connect to all of those neurons, even that are within, the area of neurons that are coming into it. It has part of it. Thanks, Mark. I'm glad you like the. Yeah, that's what I thought. I was feeling like I was going in the direction wrong, but the idea is right, I think. So assuming semantically encoded sensory input is coming through here, we're going to create this streaming encoder, which we have done. Okay, let's take a quick look at what we have done so far. First of all, building HTM systems README is here, and I will throw this into chat. I always think the mouse is not where it is. BHTMS. All right, so here's a link to the document that I'm looking at. There's a music store downstairs, so you're going to hear some electric guitar. He tests out guitars sometimes. Okay, so here's the Heroku deployment, so we can look at this. It takes a few seconds. It takes a few seconds because it's a free deployment. So this was our latest deployed app. That anybody can see that if you follow that link. And we just did this spatial pooling thing, and it should be moving, right? So we actually have a streaming input occurring here, and this diagram is responding to that stream changing over time. So all of the remaining diagrams that we're going to work on from here, basically almost all of them from here on out, are going to be attached to this streaming data component. So everything will be moving at however fast we want it to be moving, because this data stream is going to be moving. The data stream is looks like this. It's a typical spatiotemporal data stream. It's one scalar input moving through time. Okay, HotGem. It's HotGem data. And if you don't know what that means, go to the forum and search for HotGem. So all this stuff is going to be streaming. The combined input, like we just saw, is streaming. So this is live updating as the input changes. Eventually we'll have this display so you can see it stream too. The next thing that we're doing is the same sort of streaming deal, but potential pool. We're going to show the potential pools. So we're going to start with this combined encoding that's all gray. And we're going to overlay based on the selection of a mini column. So we're already going to have to make some decisions here. How many mini columns do we want to have? We already have the input space sort of defined. So now we have to decide how many mini columns do we want to have, and how do we decide what cells in the input space it's going to be selected to, right? Or it's going to have access to. So that's how we decide the potential pools. And what I want to do is, as the user hovers over this space, a mini-column is selected and its potential pools are displayed over top of another space which represents the input. So essentially, we're going to have this grayed out. That's going to be the input space. We'll have this over to the right, okay? And we'll have another box that is this, that has a mouse interaction. So as the cursor hovers over that, you can see for each mini column, or as you can select a mini column essentially, and it will show its potential pool. So that's the plan. And the other little bit here is just some additional marks on there to highlight not only the potential pool, but the inputs that were either observed or ignored, because that's also important too. You know, because these potential pools exist, some mini columns will never connect to some patterns if they're not represented or able to be represented within its potential pool. So there's by narrowing down the field of the mini column to only some of the input, you're enforcing selectivity, right? You're losing information. Okay, this is just an example of how the spatial pooler loses information. All right. Okay, so how do we do this? Let's get down to how you say brass tacks. Is that correct? Let's see. NTA, we're in building HTML systems. Where are we at? What do I have different here? Oh, I never committed that, did I? Falco says, is the mini column, so the mini column is each of the little squares on the area on the left. Yes. These are the mini columns in just a representative array. And actually, I'm going to, I don't want to mark this one up. Where else did I mark this up? Like there. This is my master document there. Okay, I think that was it. Let me go to this one. I'll mark this one up. All right, yeah. So this, come on. Mini columns. Over here, and this is on the right is the input space. So let's get to our code here. The first thing to do is share a session. Let me make sure that I'm all up to date. And I apparently have changes that I didn't stage, which that's a bummer. I don't know what. Oh, that was for something else. So I'm gonna leave that. That's something that David was working on, but I'm gonna leave that. I'm actually gonna stash it. I'm gonna check out Dave. I don't know. He was just showing me how to do something with React and divs. I think I'm gonna remove it because he showed me and I've got reference to it. So I'm gonna check it out. Get checkout pages. And then I'm just going to remove this combined. Oh, I can check this out. Oh, combined playground is new. Okay. All right, so let me do a live share. And now I should be able to paste here if anybody wants to follow along with the code. And let me get a server up and running, so that we can follow, so that you guys can follow along. Here's my server, and if I remember correctly, I can do this, share server, share the server here, and now anyone who connects to that live share link will be able to run the server, which is right here on localhost. So, whoops. And so we're going to continue working with the spatial pooling document here. Let's fill up the space we can fill. And of course, get our debugger open. All right, so we're going to create a new diagram, and aside from the combined encoding, and we'll call it potential pools, and it's going to be one big SVG, 500 width. I'm trying to make them all 500 width, and with two groups of cells within them, just like I showed here. So the SVG is going to encompass both of them. So it's going to like wrap like this, and the whole thing is going to be in this SVG. So I need to make sure that I can fit it in there properly. And it may be for the sake of space, we move that somewhere else or something. But for right now, I just want to get these two sections working. So let's see where we were at with our code. And let's turn some music back on now that I'm not guitaring. I want to make sure that that's not too loud for anybody. Let me turn this off. Get my headphones on. Okay, how's the volume on that? Turn it down a little bit more. So I assume that these are layers in the same section of Cortex. No, they're... So only one of these represents a layer of Cortex, only the MiniColumns. This represents feed-forward input, the right side here. Wait a minute. Yeah, this one. This is feed-forward input. This is the only one representing a layer of Cortex. Does that make sense? Okay. Jeff speculated MiniColumns could exist across layers. Yes, they definitely do. They do exist across layers. They're not observed in all layers, but if they exist in some and but not in the middle, but then down lower, I mean, we probably just don't see them. They probably exist in all layers. Yeah, just because we don't see them doesn't mean they're not there. It's one of the problems with neuroscience. Yeah, so feed-forward input, I'm not going to assume anything about the feed-forward input. In fact, I'm not going to assume it comes from the same layer. Perhaps this part of the input comes from one layer, this part of the input comes from somewhere else, this part comes from somewhere else. So we won't make any assumptions. We'll just assume that each one of these MiniColumns has a potential pool into the same area of input, wherever it's coming from. They have to be sort of grouped together somehow, like topologically, so that they can reach each other, you know. All right, so to the code, what we have here, if we're looking at, don't need a toggle button. We are in the spatial pooling page. So this is React again. We've got a React application, and we're going to create some D3 diagrams on top of this React application. And the last one we created was this combined encoding, and that's the last bit that we saw. But we're going to also create, and this is our toggle for it. So I'm going to program another encoding. I'm assuming this is going to be potential pools, and I'm gonna set it up like I think it's going to exist. This is another diagram. Diagram width is the same. Okay, so what do I need to specify? Sorry about the guitar sound downstairs. What do I need? What am I going to need to specify to this? Well, I'm going to need to tell it, first of all, how many MiniColumns there are. All right, so MiniColumn count. We usually say 2048. That might be too big to do the visualization. And they also need to specify, there's one other thing, is that per each MiniColumn, if I'm looking at the MiniColumn and its relationship to each one of these input cells, what are the chances that it's going to be connected? And no, it's actually more like what percentage of that input is going to be in the potential pool. That's what it is. And I think in NewPick, I think we call this connected percent, something like that. So initially we'll start with 1, right, which is 100%. So let's just do that for now, and we should see a fully connected layer. Well, not in that way, not in the Boltzmann machine way. Okay, so this doesn't exist yet, so we need to, like, this is just gonna break everything. So what I'll do is I'll come in here, I'm gonna steal this one, because I'm gonna use some parts of this one. This is in diagrams, new file. This is funny, I'm looking at the wrong screen. Yeah, new file. Potential pools.jsx. I never thought I was going to be writing JSX. Never did. Okay. Okay, I will not need most of this stuff. I won't need this. I'll use off color, combined color, and then we'll have a like PP color, which is the potential pool color, which is going to be a very light yellow, a lemon yellow or something. Keep the padding the same. Okay, so we're not going to have an encoding. We're going to have, actually we are, we're going to, see, here's the thing. Do I want to, I'm going to have a combined encoding in here, so it's going to have to be updated with the data, which makes sense. I need this data, and I will have an encoding. So, yeah, so this data is representing another thing that we set up last week, which was a high order component, right? Is that what it's called? With scalar data, and this is what actually generates the data. So this is going to be generating data, which consists of value and time. And this will just progress over time. So we're going to depend on this coming in as, or this being updated, this data component being updated for potential pools at some consistent regulation. 1 Hertz, for example, is probably what it starts at. Okay, so we're going to need a mini-column count. We're going to need how connected it's going to be. Let's make this more interesting so we can tell. Have it 50%. 85. I think what we generally do is 85. And then we know it's going to get data. So it is going to need an encoder. Which encoder is it going to need? Well, it's going to need all these encoders. It's going to need everything. Is that the right yellow? Okay, I'll use found me a good yellow. Yeah, I didn't think lemon yellow. That was a stretch. I just kind of guessed. All right. PD. Okay, so I removed my encoders, but I still need them. There's another thing I could do, but I won't. It's fine to just, I don't mind doing this now that I think about it. We are not going to use those other colors, but we will encode this data in the same way. In fact, let's close this. Let's make this a little bit smaller and split to the right so we can see our combined encoder side by side. Potential pool, combined encoding. So all this stuff is correct. We're still going to do this. Render output cells. I'm going to call something different. It's not output cells anymore. Let's call it it's input space. Render input space. And the input space is always going to be, this is fine. I think encode will be fine. Yeah, so the input space, the color is always going to be the same. What are we doing color here? Fill, DD. That's right, we're setting up a little data object. Should the encoding itself be a high order component? You know, I was just thinking about that. It could. That way it could be encoded like the scalar encoder updates, the encoding updates, and just adds something else to the data, which would be an encoding. But I mean, what I need, it's still different from the combined encoding, because the encoding I need isn't broken up into pieces. The combined encoding needs it broken up into pieces, which requires even more information. So let's leave it for now. One of the things I continue to realize as I make more visualizations is that each one is going to be unique, and it's okay to copy and paste some code sometimes. There's just a few unique things to some of this stuff, but we'll see. If you see stuff like that, it's good, definitely good to bring it up. Yeah, I need color data, or you could pass it as an object with each encoding as its own attribute. Yeah, I could, but let's not. Maybe we decide to do that later. But for right now, let's try and get this potential pools as simple as possible, because the data, that's right. So it's this joint color bit that we can remove from the encode. So when we encode here, we're not going to do the joint color thing. So this will be simpler. It's just always going to be PP color. No, combined color, which is gray. And I'm going to keep this up here. Yeah, I already have that. So I have the combined color. It's always going to be the combined colors. Color. Combined color or off color. That's basically. So I can pull this off into its own function. Probably. Wait a minute. There's probably a better way to do this. So I'm encoding. No, I do need to do it. I can provide the same function. And that's basically this, right? Yeah. Does this make sense? So I'm doing the same thing to all of them now. Oh, no, I can't. I have to do it right here. Yeah. So for each. So I copied the wrong thing. Let me start with for each. Ugh. Sorry, I'm keep color F. That's all I want. I just want in the for each the color function. All right. So we're just doing this basically for each one. We're just coloring it the same color, just so we can match like the data pattern that D3 is looking for. And at the end of that, after we do that, we'll have filled out our encoding. Okay, I think that should work. So now we'll get only, so this color is gonna work out. And let's look at the rendering. So this output cells, we're gonna call this input space, not output cells. And that's why we'll call this input space. And okay, let's see what broke. So I said that broke. Potential pools. Oh yeah, so I just have to import potential pools in the spatial pooler. prop types. Let me fix this real quick. This is a React thing. Okay, we do need an ID, we do need data, but we also are sending it something else. MiniColumn count. They should all have diagram width too. And connected percent number. Okay. All right. So we got a warning here. Can't perform a React state update on an unmounted component. I'm not sure what that means. This is a no-op, but it indicates a memory leak. To fix, cancel our subscriptions and async tasks, and the component will unmount. So I've got something in component will mount that I'm not undoing. Or component did mount. There's David to the rescue. So something in update encode or input space. What do I need to do? This isn't doing anything different than the other one, is it?
Yeah, I think it's just a warning from before when the page, the HMR, the hot module
Oh yeah.
was it dismounted and remounted, and then it probably called update after it mounted. So it was like,
All right, let me
see if you refresh the page.
Yeah, that worked. Okay. All right, so I don't have a toggle here, but I have exactly what I want. I'm gonna comment the other one out while we're working on the potential pool. So we're just looking at the one thing. Actually, all the way out. There we go. Okay, so this is just making the space. And I'm going to write prose for all this. I just have not gotten around to it yet. This should be clean now. Okay, potential pools. All right, so we have our one. So now we have to, so here's where I'm gonna draw the, I want to have a debug style. I forget how to do this. Don't worry, I'll do it. React style attribute, right? Or is it inline styles?
No, normally you just put like a style sheet, like a SCSS file or whatever, and then you just set the class name equal to.
No. I want to actually just. Oh, you mean okay? I see what you're saying. Hold on.
You could do it like this though.
I could do it either way, right? But I think I already have. So I could do something like that and just update my style sheet and make sure I have that. That seems better. That's gonna be, I think I put it in layout. This is where I have been putting things. I just want to see the SVG border, okay, so that I can work out the layout. So that's fine. Because we're going to have two. We're going to have input space, and that's going to be on the right, and we're going to have another one. Whoops. And that's going to be the MiniColumns. And I'm just going to translate these to put them in the right place. I could do it here. Oh, well, we'll see. First of all, since this is work, I don't need you anymore. I don't need you split anymore. I don't need you anymore. I don't think I need this either. Oh, actually I do. Because I want to decide how, well, we'll just, it won't change at first. I want to allow the MiniColumn parameter to change, but for right now, we'll just get it working first. So So the first thing I need, so this is tricky because I'm not sure, I want this diagram to display a state of the spatial pooler, but honestly I feel like the state needs to be passed in. What I told it to do was pass in the count of the MiniColumns, but I could just have it pass in MiniColumns and create the MiniColumns here. All right. And then we'll have to make some assumptions about the structure of this data, you know, but because so here's a couple things that I want the user to be able to do. I want them to be able to change the number of MiniColumns and the thing responds, and also change the connected percent. So every time someone changes the number of MiniColumns or the connected percent, then all of the potential pools have to be reevaluated or reinstantiated. And I'm wondering where the best place to do that is, because eventually I'm going to create a spatial pooler and code that initializes a spatial pooler in another project that does the initialization. And the state is going to be accessible from some object, you know, like an SP object. And I'll be able to look into its MiniColumns and for each one look through its potential pools. So honestly, I'm wondering, I mean, that manipulation, the changing of the MiniColumn and the changing of the connected percent is going to reinstantiate the spatial pooler. And I'm starting to wonder if I should do all this within the potential pools diagram or if I should do it outside of the potential pools diagram. It's just an illustration. So we could start and put the logic in the potential pools diagram, because what I'm trying to explain is the logic of creating the potential pools, and perhaps in the end we'll figure out how to, you know, translate that into the spatial pooler class or code base that we actually create that runs spatial pooling. Because at this point we don't have to run a spatial pooler, we just have to create this data structure. So let's try and do it the simplest as we can right now, which would be to isolate it within this potential pools. So what that means is when it mounts, we know, well, anytime there's an update, we're going to have to recreate this data structure. So I'm going to have we know we have an encoding and that's working. We're also going to have MiniColumns here. Did I check this out? Yeah, so this is, we're going to put this back to count. I'm going to undo what I just did. This is going to stay count for now. We might come back and change this. But so we'll keep a local state object for MiniColumns, which is going to update anytime someone changes one of these. So we're going to be recalculating here inside the potential pool diagram. I think it'll be the easiest thing to do. Encoding is working. Let's hide this. So in the update, this is where we create the encoder. So we need a spot here that, just like in code and input space, we're going to have something else, which is going to be set up potential pools, and then this dot render potential pools. Something I would just try and do something similar, you know. So set up potential pools, render potential pools. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we know that we have MiniColumns, and it's at this point there's going to be nothing in them. So so essentially for our props, we're going to create a new array. Well, we're going to create that new array, and we want, for each one of those, we're going to create a new set of potential pools. So the easiest way to do that perhaps is just to say this dot props dot MiniColumn count, Did I put clout? I didn't. It's weird. Where did I put clout? MiniColumn count. Okay. Got MiniColumns. MiniColumn count. Okay, so I guess how do you loop a certain amount of times in the Harmony JavaScript? I wrote count with an M. Oh, I think you're.
Do you care about performance?
No. Just
you can just do a new array here. I'll put it in there.
A new array with that amount of count, and then for each. Is that it?
No, because everything would be undefined. They wouldn't be initialized, so you loop over anything. You actually need to one second.
That's okay if they're uninitialized. All I want is to run a function so many times, the number of MiniColumn count. I can't tell where you are. Shouldn't this work? This seems like it should work. Because all I'm going to do, actually, this seems nuts, but bear with me. Because all I want to do, for each one of these, I'm gonna create a data structure, and we're gonna have something called potential pool, and it's gonna be empty initially. Okay.
Yeah, because what's weird about that, if you just initialize the array, for some reason the elements are undefined, so when you do the for each, it won't loop over it.
Oh.
The indexes will still work, but the items won't be initialized, so it won't loop over anything.
That's weird. Okay. All right. Well, that's a good catch before it bit me. Okay. So this is where we decide. This is where we create the array of potential pools. So what we want to do here is go through the entire input space. And that's going to be, so the data that we're, do I need to know how big the input space is? It should be no, it's in data. It's in the encoding. That's right.
You need
It's
to
in
know
the
the
encoding.
input size, right?
Yeah. So I can go to my. How did I do it in the other one? Let me go look. I thought we did encoder. Whoops.
I had a question for you. Is this just like a quick array object just to hold this list of potential pools, or is this going to be like an initial spatial pooler itself?
It's just a quick array. And eventually, I mean, it's what I'll use for doing spatial pooling. Eventually, the same concept, but I'm not trying to optimize anything. I'm trying to make it understandable.
So do you prefer having an array indexed by the input space that has like a list of all the columns and their permanents, or do you go from the columns and then each column has a list of all the input space maps?
Yeah, so each mini column here, because this is a mini column, is going to have a potential pool it's a list of indices towards the input space from that mini column to the input space. So this is going to be a random selection of cells indices from that input space. And,
I got you. I go the other way. I go from the input space to the column.
But it matches better the concept I'm trying to share here. Is maybe you're right. Maybe because it doesn't matter which way you map it. But when you're doing the computation, it makes more sense, feels like, to be centric to the layer of cells, right? Than to think of it from an input space centric place, because we're going to think about it from the aspect of MiniColumns, how it's related to the input space, and then MiniColumns, how they're related to themselves. Because when we get to the temporal memory portion of it, we're going to talk about how those cells are related to other cells within other MiniColumns. So,
right. I see that as two separate. Okay, I got you.
It's two separate, but I feel like it's if I need to make it layer centric. You know, a relationship of the layer to this versus a layer to something else to itself. So I'm gonna do it this way. I'm gonna say each mini column has a relationship to the input space. It has a potential pool of potential connections it might have a connection on, and that's what this is gonna represent. So let's create. This should be an easy one-off function to write. Create potential pools. Create potential pool, and all we need to know is the input space size and the connected percent. So this dot props dot connected percent, and however I get the size, which I can't remember, encoding dot n, I think. So then it's this dot encoding dot n. So I need to create this function. It's not even related to this, you know, we can create this wherever. Just connected percent and size. Connected percent size. So this is going to return an array. Let me work through this in my head for a minute. All I need to do is for each potential input, just, you know, randomly create a number, and if it's below the connected percent, we will return that index. So this should be a list of indices, whatever, like. So I need to go through this, and again, I can do it the same way, so I don't really care about performance right now, right? I can do the same sort of deal. I want to do something so many times, and I want to decide for each one of those times. Let's do this step by step. Out. Let's just call it pool, and then we'll return the pool at the end. And then for each one of these, didn't like that.
It's going to be a map, right? You're just going to return the map.
No. I'm going to return a list of indices. The pool is going to be a list of indexes. To the input space of which ones are available for connection. Why isn't this working? Oh, because this doesn't work, obviously. This is going to be size. Did I do something wrong here? I just want to loop size times, and I'm going to decide for each one. For each index, if I'm gonna, no, this is silly. How did I do this in, I did this in HTML school. I can't remember how. Actually, I think I just asked,
I think you just need a semicolon in this case. Okay. But there's a lot of, what I use is like Lodash. Lodash has a lot of things like this, like times, all kinds of functions.
I used to
No
use
good.
Lodash a lot, but I got rid of it when Harmony came out because I thought I thought everything would work then. So really, I need a, okay.
So, well, you probably want to reduce. You probably want a reducer here.
Yeah. Let me think this through. This is for one mini column. I just want to loop through every bit in the input space. I just want to select basically a percentage of those bits randomly. A percentage of those indices randomly. And so for each one, I can choose a random number, and if it's below, I'll add it. So, and you're saying I should how would reduce help with this?
For building the return object, so you basically, as you start with like an empty object. What's the object supposed to look like that gets returned?
One-dimensional array. Remember, this is for one mini column. This create potential pool gets called for each mini column.
I got you.
I mean,
So,
the easy thing.
So then,
Let's not do it with reduce, because I can do it just with this. All I have to do is say, let random equal path.random. Isn't that going to get me between 1 and 0? And then if random greater than.
yeah, I just use this, but like you can do the same thing because I use this a lot in places like just a P.
Oh, okay. So that's the actual change. But I need to call random every time, so I have to do this in here.
No, you would just call P. They keep that function up here.
Oh, okay.
Call P.
I gotcha. So you're the functional way. So we'll just, so you're just saying if P of connected percent. Then pool add, is it my Python or JavaScript? Is it add? Not append.
Push.
Just push. Push. That's right. And I need the index here. Just do this.
Right?
Right?
Second.
I want to be the second one. That's right. Push I. Okay. So this should get me potential pools.
So this won't hold any like permanence values, just which
No.
indexes it. Gotcha.
No, we haven't even gotten to the permanence values. We won't today. This is just to select what possible connections we might have permanence values within. Each one will have a permanence value at some point, but for right now we're only showing the pools. Oops. Okay, so let's at least debug here and see that we have mini columns and see what they look like. All right. Mini columns is not defined on 60. So this dot. Somewhere else I did that too, I think. Maybe not. Okay. So this mini columns. Potential pool array of nothing. Well, one of just 0, because we got something going on here. Let's check this out. Let's stop here. So create potential pool. We've got a connected percent 0.85, a size of undefined. Okay, so that's the problem. This dot encoding doesn't exist. Right, so it has, oh, I have encoded though. It should exist, so I don't know why it doesn't. Encode here, constant encoding, this dot encoding equals. Let's stop there, make sure we're hitting that first. We are, this encoding equals something. So we have this dot encoding. Oh, I don't have a this, obviously. The encoding needs to be sent in because I'm pulling it. I pulled it off. No, that's not right. It should be there. It should be, unless this was correct. Not sure why I don't have a.
Is it what calls
This
this
is
function?
undefined. That's weird.
It's because it's not bound to this,
Yeah.
depending on where it's coming from.
Well, it's coming from update.
And then what calls update?
Component did mount and component did update. No, just component did update. It should be bound.
Yeah, try that.
Okay. Ah. Triples. What was I shooting for? This dot encoding. Yeah, it's there. This dot encoding is there. So. This still doesn't seem to be working. It's because I've got another function here. Hold on. Is this right? See, I don't understand why you need to do this. That doesn't make sense to me. Because this is already, it should already be bound. I'm calling it from another member function through this. This should be bound. Now I can understand if this doesn't work because, let's try this. Actually, let's just say in, because this is what we really want, in, this.encoding.in. Or I should really call it size. And then this, I should really call that, well, connected percent. See, I think that this issue is coming from right here. Size is still undefined. This doesn't make much sense to me right now because, oh, the encoding has no, oh, it's length, it's not n, it's length. That's what the problem is. Okay. I need to take that out. But I should at least have this dot MiniColumns. And each one, hopefully now, has a potential pool. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, but it includes, yeah, 85%. Okay, yeah, 250, 245, 253. I don't remember how many are there. But it'll look pretty obvious when we get it rendered, whether it's right or not. If we make this, if we change this to like 0.085%, it should be obviously smaller. Whoops. Well, we'll see. We'll see it in a minute. I don't need to run through this. Turn it off. Trying to turn this off. Okay. Okay, so let's render. Let's render some things. So I'm gonna take a page from this book, and this is initially gonna look silly. They're just gonna render on top of each other. Let's see if I can. Maybe I should put the render functions closer to each other. Got code. This. Mounts, updates. I need to clean this up a little bit, but I'll spend some time doing that in a moment. Render, the render component did mount and update. I feel like should be up at the top here. Yeah. Okay, then we have update, set potential pools, encode, render input space, render potential pools. All right, so this is going to be potential pool. I think that's what I called it. Nope, MiniColumns. Right, yeah, because this is the MiniColumn. We're going to render the potential pool over top of the encoding. So we're going to actually, once the, yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, so the pools are actually be on top of the encoding, but we have to have a MiniColumn selected. So there's going to be a selected MiniColumn, and the mouse over is going to change that, and that's just going to be an index. And then this render potential pools is going to render over this existing input space. So we're going to have two arrays of rectangles written into this input space. One that's the combined encoding that's gray, and another one which is a yellow overlay on top of it. And they're both going to be on the same space. One we've already got. The other one is render potential pools. We're going to put right on top of it. So we're going to have a group of cells over top of another group of cells. So this isn't going to be MiniColumns. This is going to be potential pools. I didn't set that up exactly right. Potential pool. So we're going to have an input space group, and we're going to have potential pool. All right, and the potential pool, yeah, we'll leave it at that. And so this is going to be actually in a different location, but these two are going to be overlaid on top of each other. All right, so I've already done all this jazz. So in this case, the fill is always going to be, well, not always. How are we doing our data? So we can't use this encoding. We're going to use, well, we're going to have to go find the selected MiniColumn. So let's hard code this for a moment. We know MiniColumns. Okay. MiniColumns. Go look at, well, selected MiniColumn doesn't exist yet, but it will. I'm just going to do this for now. This will eventually be sort of a global thing. Selected MiniColumn. We'll just select the first one. Shouldn't matter. Okay, so this is going to be a list of indices, which is different. Excuse me. Which is not what this got last time. So we're going to have to decide where to render the squares based on the index, not the count. All right, so this is going to be a little tricky. Or we could convert it into an array of on and off bits with all the indices. But I don't know if that's what I want to do. Let's just play around with this and see if we can get this to work. So we know that all of these are going to be, all of them are going to be the PP color, which is a potential pool color. The stroke, I'm going to put none, because this is going to be sort of an overlay. I don't think we need a stroke width then. Fill opacity is 1. We might change that, but okay. So it's X and Y that's going to be tricky. Cell width and height are going to be fine. So this X and Y is not going to work, right? It's going to look weird, but I think it'll render something. So let's check it out. Or not. Maybe it won't. I don't know. Okay. Well, let's see. Let's inspect and see what didn't happen. So, oh yeah. So maybe we didn't select it properly. So potential pool, am I calling render potential pools? Yes. Is it getting the right thing? Let's find out. G is yes. So there is, it's getting the SVG G element. Okay, so the selected MiniColumn 0, so we're going to go with the very first one, which has a potential pool. Oh, yeah. I have to call dot potential pool. So that's not a big deal. Right here. So it's not just this, it is also dot potential pool. Let's break this out a little so we can see the data that we're getting. Okay, so I think this will now render something, but it won't look right. Get rid of the debugger. Yeah, okay. So it's like I said, it's rendering something but doesn't look right because we're using, because this is the number of indices, not the right locations of indices. So this is where we need to inspect, right here. So we're not looking at the data, we're looking at the index. So we want to start looking at the data instead. So I think it might be as simple as switching out the index for the data. If that's the case, that would be flippin' brilliant. Yes, it is. It's that simple. It's that simple. Oh, okay. That makes me pretty happy, but that's not 85%. That's like the inverse of 85%. So let's do this. Greater than.
I thought you changed it to 0.
I changed it to, oh, I did, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah, that should be less than.
You're right, you're right. Why, I should know now not to doubt you. Okay. That's right, so, whoops. So now it should be very small. So let's, oh, no, wait, I changed something. Less than, oh yeah, I made it 0.85. Okay, so that's 0.85. Let's make it 15. That should be, yeah. Okay, cool. So that's potential pools. So it's not quite exactly how I want it to be. First of all, the potential pools are changing in each time step. They should not. So that's one thing we have to figure out. The potential pools should be created on initialization, and then on update, they should no longer change ever again. So let's try and see if we can figure that out. Because then
I think it's because of the update, right? On this update, you're calling.
Yeah.
That should be in mount, right?
Yeah. So this is going to happen once. This setup potential pools is only going to happen in component did mount. No. Yeah, there we go. So I'm hoping, what did I do here? So I have to do the encode first, but I can do the encode once. It's not gonna hurt anything. I think this will work. Ugh, my auto formatting is really screwing me up. There we go. So it doesn't like, I haven't gotten the encoders set up right. What else do I have to do here? Component did update.
You can also just check to see if the array is already initialized. If it is, then don't set up initialized and keep it in the update. Yeah.
Oh, whoops. Yeah, I guess I could. This is, hold on a sec. I'm not understanding why am I getting this error?
Probably because it's on mount and you didn't create the encoders yet, right?
Oh. Where do I create the encoders? Oh, I create them here. So this stuff won't be available in component did mount?
Oh, and it should be.
It was encode was choking because it said there was no time. Oh, we haven't gotten any data. There's no data object.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I can just ignore, if there's no data, we just ignore on update. Right, I think I can do that. Because I'm just gonna say if this dot props dot data dot time. Ugh, wrong IDE. Let's see if this works. Can't read property. Potential pool of undefined. Render potential pools 160. Oh, okay, so this is actually, this might be legit. Maybe I don't have a selected mini column. I think I'm just getting things in the wrong order. I'm rendering potential pools from update. So after render input space, but there's no mini columns yet. Because, oh yeah.
Do you need to put that encode back in the mount?
I need to put, excuse me, I no longer have set up potential pools anywhere. So set up potential pools needs to go in the did mount, like you said, right here. I don't know, I accidentally deleted it. Okay. Length of so there's no encoding, and I need to have an encoder. I need to have the encoding set up before I can do the potential pools. And I need to.
All right, so you could just put that as the else in update, right? If there is time, then do all that.
No.
Like do the encode first.
If there's no time, wait a minute. I'm only doing this if there is time. If there's no data, there's no point doing anything because I don't have an encoding. I don't know how long the encoding is. I can't do anything. So the first time.
So what did you do first? You put the set up potential pools here, but you said you needed the encode to be called first.
The only reason I need encode to be called first is so I know how long the encoding is. That's the only reason. That's something that could be hard coded. Honestly, I mean, I can look at these encoders and add them up. Why don't I just do that? I'm gonna do that. I think that's probably the, because the size is, if there's no encoding, I can still calculate the length of it, and that's just by going to the encoders and counting the W. So I can go like, I know this is kind of not efficient, but n plus. So you're saying if. No. Oh, okay. That you're saying that'll only run once then. As long as that only runs once, then that should work.
Yeah, it should.
Okay. Let me make sure.
You don't actually just now because you only needed that when it was in the mount, right?
Yeah, I only need the setup potential pools to run once in mount. It should run in mount, but the problem there is that we haven't encoded anything in mount, and so there's no length, and so I'd have to manually count the length, which is what I was about to do.
But so this will come in here. This will create the encoding.
Yeah.
And then this will say, have I initialized the potential pools yet? If not, then set them up. And then the encoding will be there when it gets to set up potential pools. You can just use the.
Yeah. That should work. But I'm missing size because, oh yeah, because I took it out. So then I just have to say what I removed this dot encoding dot length. All right. Let me take this out. So this shouldn't change now. There we go. Good. This is what I wanted to see. Okay, let's change the opacity so we can see this a little better. Where was opacity? All right, for potential pools, let's make this 0.5 so we can see the gray under it. There we go. So now this is this is getting closer. This is what I want to see. So one potential pool, and we show the input streaming behind it. So this is like the view of one mini column. It only sees what's within the potential pool. And this should probably be, I'm gonna move this under it. I bet this will look better like this. And then make the, oh, I can't color whites for the input space. Let me uncolor those. Or I could, oh, there's a couple ways I could do this. Potential pools, I'll make 100%, and then the input, oh, stroke width, fill opacity, here we go. I'll have to play around a little bit with the opacity and stuff, but it's something like this. I might even change so the colors look a little bit different. But well, I'll mess around with that later. But this is basically what I want. I want the data running in the background, and this is one potential pool for one mini column. So after this, we'll make this smaller and we'll move it to the side, and we'll start working on the mini column diagram that we can hover over. And I mean, it's largely unnecessary to make this, but I feel like it's tangible when you can move through the space and click on a mini column or select the mini column. You can see each one has a different potential pool. That's what I want to show. So let's take a break for a little while because I'm starting to get a little burnt out right now. So I'm going to put on this loop. I'm going to commit the code that we have right now and push it to the repo. Sorry guys, I've been sort of ignoring chat now. Remember, you have the sounds. If I'm ignoring you, to use one of those sounds so that I'll remember that you're around. Okay, I'm adding the layout component, pages, CSS. Actually, I'm going to do this. I'll do this so you can see. We'll use. Okay, I added a debug color. This whole potential pool class is new. I think I've cleaned it up. There's more stuff we're going to do in here, so it's good enough for now. And all we're doing here is adding that. I have this commented out for now, which is fine. So this works for me. Let's push this. Initial potential pool diagram. All right. Git push. I'm not even PRing it, I'm just gonna push it. All right. So that's cool. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm gonna take a quick break and stretch my back a little bit. All right, I'm turning my turning that off. I'm gonna play a record instead. Let's play. It's Grateful Dead. There we go. This is my record cam. Can't see my face anyhow. PGO. It's Wes Montgomery, jazz guitarist. I love this album. I gotta play it, I think. Wes Montgomery, Santana. This is one of my favorite records. Is this it? Yeah. It did go way up. This is one of my favorite records. It's great. It's Ray LaMontagne. It's such a chill. It's just a really good record. I could listen to it over and over. It's one of those. So that's what I'm gonna do. Still working. Okay. So we got the first part of this working, which is awesome. Dave simplified a method in the meantime. Let's see where you're at. Aha. True 30% of the time. Given a connection percentage. Turn this off. Aha, okay. So this is basically the same thing. You just, or just say get potential pool instead of create potential pool. It's easy enough. I can do that as long as it still works. Yep. Cool. All right, so it's just a filter. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Onward. Let's go to the next part. The next part is just this, which is basically we have to draw the other box. So let's translate these two groups. I think I'm going to do this manually. I think it's okay to do stuff manually. Manually meaning like hard coding visualizations. I've done enough visualizations to know, I think, manual tuning is not only necessary, but it's I think you end up wanting to do it after a while because the diagrams are so tiny different, like everything's a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this space in half. One way I could do it is I could add a translation. I know that the width is going to be 500. I really do know that. Because that's a restriction of the design space that I'm going to need to fill. So we could add a translation here. I think you do it just like this. Translate, or is it transform? Transform equals translate. Let's see if this works. It should move it. Yeah, okay, so it moved it. This is something that we can also do on the fly if we want to do it programmatically. Right now, I'm not. I'm going to move it over half the space. I can do that for both of them. And then I'm going to make the cell height smaller. Keep in mind that the actual size of this is like this. So we can't get too small. I mean, this is 500 pixels. It's not that big, right? But it seems to be a pretty typical width for visualizations. I don't want to make it too much bigger. I want it to be able to display on lots of screens. So let's go find cell width. So as we're doing the input space, am I in the right place? Yeah. So in both of these, we're going to get the cell width based upon the diagram width and the number of columns. And that seems to include the padding. So let's just divide this by 2 again. Okay, well, let's divide the other one by 2. All right, it's not amazing, but it works, right? Okay, so at least we have a space. We put it aside, and then we're going to render the other one, which is the MiniColumns. So to render the MiniColumns, we don't need any information except how big the MiniColumn array is. So we have to make sure this is done after this. After we set up potential pools, we can set up MiniColumns. I don't even need to set up MiniColumns. I can just render them. Because they're already set up. All it's really going to be is a bunch of white rectangles with a mouse with a hover effect, with a hover interaction. So it's going to be really similar to render input space. So let's just copy and paste that. Hope my mic's on. Is everything good? You guys hear me okay? It's not, the Ray LaMontagne's not too loud. Render MiniColumns. This is good, this is good. This is going to be MiniColumns finally.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
I think that's loud enough. Forgot I had the volume up so loud. Okay, cool. Is that what I called it? Just MiniColumns? Yes, MiniColumns. This is fine. This is cell width is we'll make it the same size. This is going to be a lot smaller because we're not doing encoding. This is going to be MiniColumns. So these cells will be smaller if we're using a buttload of columns. It's a technical term. This is going to be by index, not by data, because these are simply objects with a potential pool. So all we care about is the index, not the data. So this should render something right here. Ooh. That's interesting. It's not exactly what I thought it would do. Okay, I think there's just an artifact of the, so everything is going to be the fill. Let's see, the fill is going to be none every time at this point. So that should all be none. And these should be the same. This should be a square. I don't know why it's not a square. So let's step into here. See what happens. Cell width is 4. Diagram width is 420. Columns 45. Because the mini columns length is 2048. Columns, that's 45. Oh, I know what it is. It's that we're still using the encoding as the data source, which is not what we want to use. The mini columns as the data source, so that should fix it. Let me take the debugger out. That's what we want. I'm drinking my water. Okay, so now we need a mouse over. We need, first of all, yeah, let's do a mouse over, and we're going to be able to select. Let's write a function that will select a mini column based on an index. And then we can call that function. Where should I put this? Let's look at my outline here. How? Okay, render, setup, update. I wonder if this works. Nope. Render. Lots of rendering. Oh, this is alphabetical. Okay. So let's make one called select mini column by index, like this. Whoa, what happened? Keep jumping somehow to David's position. I don't know how that happened. Okay, it's by index, right? There we go. It did it again. Stop. It's not you, David. I don't know what's my VS Code is doing something strange. Okay, assuming so this select mini column. We're gonna want a property here. Selected mini column. Start with 0. Actually, let's start with. We gotta start with something. We want to show something, so we'll start with 0. That's what we're doing anyway. And we have a 0 somewhere else. Where was it? Where were we setting that? There it is. No, set up potential pools. That's right. So now we can take this out and just put this dot selected mini column. Okay. Okay, everything should be okay. So one other thing we want to do before we get too far is where we render the mini columns, we do want the fill to be different in one case. Okay, so the fill will be different if the index di. So So if the index is the same as, well, let's put this here. Constant selected mini-column, this selected mini-column. Selected. Did I do that right? Yeah, selected mini-column. Oh, that is odd. Selected mini-column. Coffee sounds good. I don't have any. I could make some actually. So if this is a selected mini-column, we're going to return selected color. Otherwise, return off color. Or no, none. We're going to do none. Dave's always coming in and optimizing my code. Alright, there we go. He's inline to the whole function. Works for me. Okay. So now we should... I gotta clean this bit up though. Just like this. Right? So now we should see the first one. I don't have a selected color, so let's add that. Selected color equals red for now. Falco, you can look me up a nice red color if you want. There it is. Okay, so that's the first one. So you can see we got it right there. So that's good. So now we want an on hover. And we're gonna do that in component did mount. No, wait. Oh yeah, well, we're gonna do that here down in where we rendered the mini columns. So here's where we will add a mouse over handler on this G, so we can do like G dot, no, not that, not there. Okay, how have I done this before? I'm gonna go look how I did hovers before, because I know we did it in simple scalar encoder. What is it? On, hover, on. Under output cells. Where's my hover on this? Handle output hover. Here we go. So how did I set this up? That's right. So so I need to set up a mouse move. Yeah. So I'll set up a mouse move over the whole thing. Over the whole SVG. Yeah. And then tell it basically this exactly. Yeah, and this is selecting whether it does one or the other. So this is pretty close to what I want. So I'll put this in potential pool down here on the SVG. After this. So on mouse move, and in this case, I don't think I need to select anything. I'm just gonna defer to this dot handle. Call it handle mouse move. Do I even need to do this now? Since I'm not using that, I think I can just do this. Now I need to add the handle mouse move function like this. Still like this. Handle mouse move. Alright, and now all this stuff take out, and it's just console log E. Just want to see this working. Okay, what did we break? E is not defined. Yeah, that's because I don't need this right here. I think I can just say that. Handle mouse move. Are we console logging? Yes. Okay, so we're getting the mouse move. So I only want, you know, even better, I could put this on mouse move on the mini column group right there like that. That's cleaner, I think, because then I'm specifically targeting only one. So when I mouse move off this, it doesn't matter, but I mouse move over here, I get it. Okay, so that's great. I can do that. And what can I get off of this? E. How did I deal with it last time? I can get E pagex. And what I really need to know is the index. If I could get the current target, that would be so easy. I don't really want to translate pixel cursor's location. I would rather just get the target I'm over. But that seemed to be a tall order last time. I mean, ideally, I want E dot target, but that doesn't work. I wish it worked so bad. Oh, it does. It did work. Perfect. Why didn't that work? Like, that did not work the last time I tried this. Okay, so can I identify its index? No, but I can add. I can add a data attribute to it. That I can just stash the index on it. Probably the easiest thing to do when I'm creating this mini column array. Is just say at last thing attr. Actually, there may be a D3js data attribute. Adding data attribute conditionally. No, it's just adder. Okay, I just wonder if there's a shortcut. Okay, data dash index. And that is going to be I. So do I get my data index? Let's see. Data index, yes, they're there. You see them right here. Data index. All right, so I'm getting this should be 2048 or 2047. And this is 0. All right, perfect. Perfect. All right. So I can get from my hover event, I should be able to say E. Actually, just this dot selected mini column equals E dot target I'm not sure this is gonna work. Right. So get attribute, no, selected mini column of undefined. Right. Yeah, because it's not bound. So this, I do understand why I need to bind this. Now I've forgotten how to do it. How was it? Wasn't it just Prin's arrow? Or did I do it? I did it in another one. I think David did it for me, actually. Draw bracket. No. It was in scalar, I thought. That's scalar overlap diagram. Oh, here it is. Handle cell. Oh yeah. I did not have to do it that in this one because I called it differently. Because I actually called this dot, so I need to bind this properly, and I forgot how to do it. Hold on. I'm sure a quick Google. React data function binding. Reactjs function binding. It's this really easy pattern. I just can't remember the. There it is. Equals parens. That's it. So equals there. Okay, so this hopefully this will bind. There we go. I use the it should be selected MiniColumn. Zero. Yeah, it's 0 because I'm never actually updating it, am I? E target get attribute data index. Let's see if we can do that. Oh boy. How can I get to my console? Is it really way down there? E dot target. I never know what frickin' object I actually have a hold of. Get attribute, that should be on a, yeah, get attribute data index. Yeah, okay, so that works. Get attribute data index number. I don't see, this should work, I think. I'm hoping. So in this case, why? Why not? Selected MiniColumn, this dot selected MiniColumn, this. So it's still this is undefined. I don't have a this. Okay, David, I think I need you to help me out here. I'm having a binding problem. I thought, see down here in my return, I put on mouse move, this handle mouse move, and then I tried to do this, but it didn't seem to work. I'm close, it's just that this, I thought this would bind and it didn't bind.
Let's see. And the mouse move.
You see where I'm at? Right here is where I think I have a problem. This on mouse move should run.
Just do this.
Oh, and then call it with the E. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Then you don't. Then this can be a regular method. It doesn't have to be a.
Then I don't have to make it that thing. All right, you can fix that. All right, I thought that's the way it was, and I was confused by it, but this will work fine. Something's still wrong. Why is that happening? So here, E to pull a selected MiniColumn, this dot selected MiniColumn. Whoa, wait. Oh, I spelled it wrong. That's why. On top of everything else. Okay. Now it should work. And then we'll just set selected MiniColumn and we'll have to re-render to see it. All right, yeah, now we've got the indices flowing. That's what I want to see. And so at this point, instead of logging, we can call select. Actually, did I create that? Did I create a function called select MiniColumn? I did, but I don't really need to. What I'm going to do is just run and update that one thing. So I set the selected MiniColumn and run this dot render MiniColumns. I think this will work. Here we go. Okay, see how? Oh, I also need to re-render the input space as well, because the potential pools will not update by themselves. Maybe I should just call update. Let's see what happens if I just call update. Yeah, that's right. That's what I want. So everyone has a, oh, it's not, one other thing. Update is not calling. Render MiniColumns has to happen. Okay, hold on. I think I need to put this here. I want to see if this breaks. I think it will. What is that? Is it gonna break? Nope, it didn't break. Okay, great. It didn't break. So we got two things going on here. We have one, I'm moving the selected MiniColumn, and that's changing the potential pools that are showing, which are the yellow boxes. And I'm not doing anything, and the input's changing. So I can look at one particular MiniColumn's potential pool, or I can look through all of the different potential pools. So every MiniColumn has its own potential pool, which was one of the things that I'm trying to explain with this visualization. And we can see it sort of all happening. It's a little bit slow on the update, but it's probably because I have, yeah, it's because I'm had the console open. So this is fine. This is great. Now, when I click on one, I'm gonna do something different. That's the next thing. Okay. All right, we're getting there. We're getting there, folks. Okay. Sorry, is that me? Yeah, that's me. All right. So, okay, I'm gonna commit this now. All we did was change potential pools. We had a selected color. Red is fine for now. We got the potential pool deal, selected MiniColumn, render the MiniColumns. Potential pool, cell width. I cut in half so we could fit two diagrams on the screen. So both of them are half of what they were in previous visualizations. Here's the render MiniColumns function, which is very similar to the other functions, but we're filling dependent on what column is selected. Our opacity is also different. Okay, that makes sense. Remove that to use the local state, and handle mouse move is now bound. Okay, so we'll also add a handle mouse click soon enough. But for right now, I think we can push this. Added mouse hover mini column selection. Now we should be able to see our latest code deployment here, I think. Yeah, so this is the previous one. As soon as we push this, this one will go live. Git push. So you should be able to see the latest version of this soon enough right here, as soon as the CI builds. And it should look like this. All right, so the next thing is this. I mean, we don't have to do any more data. We just have to, or we don't have to deal with data anymore. We simply have to decide whether to put something in the rectangle. And we're going to do that dependent on whether the current combined encoding is overlapping the potential pool of the mini-column. And like I said, I would like it to look like this bottom part here. So I want to have check marks and X's, something like that. So on top of this, and I'm not exactly sure how I want to do this. We could do more. We could do this with text elements actually, and do one more overlay on top of everything else, and just do an overlay with text boxes, and essentially use the same logic we have been using. That seems like to be the easiest thing to do. So let's try that first. Instead of drawing more rectangles or trying to like throw more things inside of the rectangles, let's just simply create one more of these G's, and I'm going to put it on top of everything else, I think. I don't know what's on top. So this will be called I don't know. I don't know what to call this. Checks. Checks is silly. It's supposed to. It's an overlay for input, whether to note whether it was overlapping with a potential pool or not. Let's call it an overlap overlay. Overlap, or just call it overlay. I don't know. Overlay. Overlay works for me. I don't want to think too much about this. Okay, so if we have an overlay, we're going to have to render the overlay, and it's only going to render if we have potential pools. So we'll do it here. No. We'll do it here. Over top of potential pools, we're going to say render overlay. And let's just take the potential pools and copy it and paste it and update it. Render overlay. Okay. So the diagram width will be fine. By the way, if anybody is wondering, we are building HTML systems. Here's a little bit of a description of that and a link to more information. We are rendering an overlay so that we can show these green and white marks over top of this visualization we're working on here. So I've got it so you can select a mini column. It will show its potential pools on the right. This hovers a little bit slow or off. Something's weird here. And I'll deal with that later. And this should update live with checks and X's. That's the idea. So we're not going to use recs. We are going to use text. So this is not going to be rect. I think all this is fine, except this. This is a potential pool. We called this overlay, I think. Overlay. I think we're going to get this done. I have like one more hour before I need to take off. And I think we're going to get this done, at least this bit that I keep showing. I might not get the legend done, but that's okay. We'll have the majority of it, I think, done. Okay, fill, stroke. We're not going to have a fill. There won't be a stroke. There will not be a fill opacity. There will be an X and a Y. There will be a width and a height. What there will be inside of the text, there will be a check mark or an X. Okay, so, and this is going to be a text. This is going to be a text. And I think, let's do a quick check. SVG text element. I do believe you can give it X and Y. Yeah, X, Y, and then even, yeah, we have more control over that. So I think X and Y is good. And we're just simply going to put a check mark or an X in each one of these. Okay. And that's going to be, I think, text. I think this. And I can say, let me check. D3js text inner, let's just say that, text elements. This is just SVG text element, but how do you, I think it's just HTML. Text HTML. I think you just say .html. Pen, oh no, it's text. So you put .text and you, yeah, okay. I was right. So .text, and we can, it will get a DI, so we'll get the data, and then we're gonna decide based on what we return here. So if I return here, hi, that should write hi a bunch of times over top of all this stuff. I mean, it should. I probably didn't do it right, but that's what it should do once I get this working. So this is overlay, render overlay, overlay, translates. Let's see if we can find it. It's gonna be here. Inspect. It's gonna be on top. Here it is. Here's the overlay, but there's nothing. Oh yeah, there's some. Oh, TE. How did I do that? TEXT. That's weird. Okay, there we go. So there's all the highs. Obviously, I want this down here on top of everything. Okay, so there's all the highs. So I'm just writing on everything right now. This is weird because there's still some TEs here. What is this? TE? Something's wrong. Come on. It's not refreshing. Just a moment. There's something wrong. Like it's frozen. There we go. Something froze. Let's go back to it. Spatial pooling. There's all the highs. I want to see, I expected there to be text in every box, and there's not text in every box. Why not? There's not text in every box. Oh, I know why. Okay. Because the data that I'm sending it is this. What I need to be sending it. Okay, so now I need to decide how I'm going to create this data object and what's going to be in it. Basically, what I want in it is so I think I might just pre-process the data a little bit and send in an array that basically has what should be in it. Should it be an X or a Y? But then I also, no, I don't think I do want to do that. Let's try this. I just want to see what happens when I do some of these things. Okay. I also need, is this right? Yeah, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me also do text SVG size. Whoops, size. SVG font size, so just font size 16, okay. TR. Eight. There we go. So this is weird. Oh yeah, that's right. So text elements are counted from the bottom, not the top. The recs are from the top, the text elements from the bottom. So I have to add the cell width, because width and height doesn't translate here. So this doesn't work. Width and height, I don't think works for text. So I would take that out and it shouldn't change anything. What I do need to do is for the Y, I need to add the cell width so that I can lower them all down. Ooh, that's not what I multiplied it. I think this, there we go. So now we're better aligned here. So interestingly enough, it's not displaying the ones, it's only displaying the ones. Okay, so I'm gonna need an initial array of every single element in the input space, so I can't do what I'm doing here. The data that I'm gonna send it is going to be the encoding. This dot encoding dot length. No. Just the encoding. So there won't be a D, or excuse me. There will be a D, but it will be on or off. So this is not. This will still work. But it's the text bit that I'll need to, so this should still work. Or not, no it won't. It's because I'm relying on D, and what I really want to rely on is I here. That's right. So I'm not relying on the data, I'm relying on the index again. Right, so now I get a count for every single one, which is what I want. Audio in Discord is super choppy. I don't know how to fix it. Sorry. You could mute it and listen to the Twitch stream, which hopefully isn't that bad. Okay, Okay, so now I need to decide what to put in these texts programmatically. And I'm going to do that inside of this text bit here. I'm going to decide. So we're going to have so let check equal, and actually I think I don't want an emoji, I want a symbol. I think it's just check, heavy check mark. That's what I want, heavy check mark. And there's another one called heavy X, isn't it? There it is, heavy ballot X. Okay, so these are the two things that I want. Check X, I don't know, ballot. That's what it seemed to be called. Okay. How did I get to the symbol viewer? It's a Mac thing. Show emoji and symbols. I think Control Command Space will also give you a, yeah, Control Command Space, and then you can expand it. That's on a Mac. So in one case, I want to show the check. In another case, I want to show the ballot. So I'm going to make this the check. No. Out initially is going to be nothing. And then I'm going to put the check on if this index is in the potential pool and there's currently a bit in the encoding. Okay, so if the encoding is on. So first of all, if D, which is on or off, then I know that's one thing. If D and, let's do this first. If D out equals check. So this should at least, then I'll return out. This should at least give us checks for, that's not what I wanted. I wanted it to be, what is D? D is going to be, should be on or off. I think I have to say if D does not equal undefined. No, okay, hold on. Something weird's going on. D is a color. Oh, that's right. Oh, I forgot I did this. So wait, that doesn't make sense. This dot encoding is, I don't want the colors here. This dot encoding is full of colors. It's already full of colors. That's right. I forgot. It's already full of colors. I want the original encoding for this. I don't want the one that's full of full of colors. So when I do the encode function here, yeah, this is where I'm doing it. I don't want to have to look. Well, I know what I can do. I'll just say if it's not the off color, that's easy enough. Okay, I can do this. We'll keep it simple. Keep it simple. If it's not the off color, whoops. If it's not the off color, we'll output a check. Do I still have a debugger? I do. It's not the off color, output a check. There we go. All right. So now this is just the encoding basically, but this isn't good enough. I also need to overlap the potential pool. So if it's not the off color and, so now I have to think about the MiniColumns. This dot MiniColumns dot, no, MiniColumns I. No. Selected MiniColumn, right? Selected MiniColumn. So dot potential pools. Dot potential pool. And now we have to look at the index of I. Close. Can I read properly? MiniColumns of undefined. This is undefined. Right. So let me just get the. Let me get the. This is in render overlay. Yeah. So this I should be able to say. This whole thing I should be able to just call potential pool, and then I can define that here. I think. Okay, it's not quite. Not quite. Let's see. Let's see here. Potential pool. What's it look like? Okay, it's got an array of indices. 85%. Index of I. Index of 0. Oh, I'm not checking. I'm just saying index of does not equal undefined. If so, otherwise it's undefined. So if this does not equal undefined. So if the off colors, I think this is it. Let's see if this works. No. Okay. I'm close here. Just bear with me. I'm only going to put a check out if I got this part right. And now I got to look in if the potential pool has an index of I, then it's a check. It's not equal undefined. Okay, so let me, what if I do this? Oh, that's working. It's working. It's working. Yeah, it's working. Yes, that is working. Perfect. Yeah. Okay, so all the checks.
Yes.
I changed it to includes. By the
Oh,
way.
you changed it. Okay. Includes instead of okay, perfect. That makes sense. Well, it works now. Thank you. Okay, so now I just have to have the condition for the X. The X's are going to, so these are only showing on the ones that are going to be observed inputs. And I want to put the X's in the overlaps where they're not observed. So these are only going to happen in where it's not off. So I think I can keep this here and create, and then this is like so. All right. Otherwise, there we go. So the entire input should have, yeah, I think this makes sense. And now, so I just want to make one green and one white and make them a little bit bigger, and that should be that. All right. So let me tweak a few things. It is, we're good, we're there. Good teamwork. Dave's still in there, but can you clean it up? Yes, please clean it up. Go for it. I'm going to mess around with some styles and colors. You can clean that up. I think all I want to do here is maybe update the font size and give it a little bit of padding. So that's what I'm just going to mess with the padding a little bit. TTR -10. Oh, of course, this is not quite gonna work until then. In the meantime, let's make our font size a little bit bigger. I always write code convoluted and then come back and refactor it later. See what we got here. Okay, I can still make this a little bit bigger, I think. The X is not quite the same size as the check. Okay, but let's do the attribute for color. And again, I think DI, we're gonna have to do the same thing because we're gonna have to make it green if it's on, otherwise off. Let me see, text, SVG, text, color. I think there's a color. It's the fill, right? Yeah, it's the fill. Fill. So not color, it is fill. Okay. And we're basically going to do the same thing. This works for you. Yeah, that works. That's great, Dave. Thank you. So I'm going to do something similar here. We're going to fill. We're going to call this green. Otherwise, white. Otherwise, none. Oh, something broke. Expected token 235. What did I mess up here? Oh, no? I've got a syntax error somewhere. I can't figure out where it is. Is it here? Text. What is this? Something I did. That doesn't make sense. Oh, is that it? My extra parens, that's right, that makes sense. That does make sense. Okay. Okay, so the white worked and the green did not. Okay. All right. Let's figure out why the green didn't work. So it's like...
Are you sure the green didn't work?
What was that, David? Not off color return cool.
Are you sure the green didn't work and the other color is just masking it?
Let me see. Oh, yeah, I guess so. Well, why? I don't see green. It says fill green, but I'm not sure why it doesn't look green. That's weird. Hold on a sec.
What if you said fill red?
Even white doesn't work. Oh, I wonder if the check marks, heavy check symbol can't be colored. I don't know. That's odd. I don't know. The other one can. That doesn't make sense.
Make it a V or something. See if it works.
Yeah. Okay. It's capital V. Well, I'm gonna leave it and see if it'll... Two symbols there. Yeah, it is. It's the check mark symbol. Can't be colored. But the X can. That doesn't make sense. Okay, let me see if I can find a different symbol that I can color. Okay, So you can't use the heavy check. Maybe that's the heavy check. Maybe this one, just a normal check mark. That works. So in that case, let's set the font size higher. And I hope I can do font weight. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna try. Okay. SVG text font weight. Not sure if that worked or not. Font weight. Yeah, so that worked. And it's bold. What can I give it? Normal or bold? Is that it?
You can either give it bold, bolder, a number.
Yeah, or a number.
Like 500, 600, 700.
All right, I usually don't use the numbers. Let's see what it looks like. I want it to be pretty bold. That didn't work. Bolder. Okay, it's good enough for now. I am gonna move them a little bit. So -10, that should move it up a little. Oh, that move. Whoa, that's not what I wanted. I forget these are really small. More like +2. Okay, and then this wise, we're going to do -3. Maybe 2. There we go. All right. It's pretty close. It's pretty close to the original design. Originally, I was only showing that on click, but I could just show it all the time. I mean, it shows you how certain columns will develop an affinity to certain areas of the input space simply because its potential pools won't allow it to connect to other places that have prominent patterns in them. Let's change this to spatial pooling. Hold on, my wife's texting me. Yeah, it's all good. It's all good in the hood. Spatial pooling, where did it go? There we go. I'm gonna change this. Let's make this smaller. Just want to see what this looks like with some different parameters for fun. So that's more like 50%, so you can see a lot more being. I'm gonna change the opacity. Now I can mess around with some of these opacities. Okay, this is the input space. What if I made it 1? It's on top, so I feel like the input space should be on the bottom, and then we should render on top of it. It's not. So we want this to be up 1. The potential pool should render on top of it now. Okay, and then we make the potential pool opaque. Or less opaque, sorry. So its opacity, I'll make it like 65%. All right, and then we have the X's on top of everything, and it's fully opaque. Yeah, I don't even have an opacity here. That looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy about that. I'm going to decrease the opacity of the potential pool a bit. Let's move it down to 50.5. Great. All right, successful day for sure. Successful day. I got everything we wanted done. David, thanks again for your help. You're really helping me keep my code clean and doing the React thing in the right way. But I like this. There's a few weird interaction bugs, but we'll deal with those later. But this is exactly what I wanted to show. And as we continue with the spatial pooler, we will keep this idea of having a selected mini-column because we'll have future diagrams that build upon that. For example, after this, again, this is also given a selected mini-column. We're going to show a heat map. This is where we get into permanences. So the next session of BHTMS, which I think will be Thursday. I think I already have this scheduled, don't I? The next one is going to be initial permanences diagram. That's a little bit premature because I've got to do this bit of the receptive field here. This bit. Before we do initial permanences, we'll see. We might have to sort of do these both at the same time because this is sort of a precursor to this. But in order to create the permanences, we have to figure out a technique to instantiate the permanences. So these are sort of part and parcel with each other. But this is the simple version. Given the permanences exist, we should be able to, upon selecting a mini-column, show all those permanences in sort of a heat map type of way over top of the potential pools. So instead of these potential pools that we're showing here, instead of putting the checks and the X's over top of them, we will render them as a color between yellow and red or green and red or something that indicates how permanent that synaptic connection is. That's the idea. So that'll be the next thing that we do, but we have to establish initial permanences first, and that takes a little bit of thought. So that's what this whole thing is about. But essentially, I already have this. I've already built this visualization that we're going to be working on in the input space here. And there's a real easy function you can do to establish these initial connections using just this sort of, what did I call it? It's just a simple distribution. It's just a normal distribution around a center point, and you can affect how wide the spread is. And this is not something that's in NewPick. This is not part of NewPick. This is something that I just came up with because it's not hard to come up with schemes to devising initial permanences. It's just, you could do it in a lot of different ways. This goes along with the spirit of HTM, which is basically to try and create, and I'll talk about this when we get there, but trying to create sort of a distribution that's heavily weighted around a center point, because you want these connections to be on the brink of learning. You know, as soon as data starts flowing, you want connections to strengthen right away and others to fall away straight away. So like, you don't want something like this. That's too many connections. This is not enough connections. There's a sweet spot, you know, and depending on how you want your learning to kick off, you might want to change this around. So anyway, that's what we're going to be working on next. So keep track with my events. Don't forget about Wednesday, Bay Area Meetup. I will be live streaming this from the office. I'll have a short talk. I think Jeff Hawkins will also have a few things to say. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, so let's commit what we have got here. And I'm pretty happy with how far we got. Okay, so the last bits was we rendered the overlay. We changed some opacity, render overlay function, and then we just rearranged this, put an input space and overlay, put the overlay on top. Okay, so I am going to, let's look and see if we did this. We still don't have, I mean, this is totally done. Like we don't have a legend. So see, I'm gonna enter a note about this, like add legend. I'm still sort of testing out the GitHub projects. So I'm gonna stage this task, add legend to potential pools diagram. And that didn't like create, like this I would say is pretty done. I'm pretty happy with this. How do I turn it off? Go away. Oh, there we go. We did both of these. I'm gonna call this done, but I'm gonna, and this done, because this is, you know, the X's, the checks and the check marks are the boxes. So those are both done. And this one is not, but I haven't created it as an issue yet. But I'm gonna leave it here as just a note, and I may initially, I'll probably turn it into something. I may do it in the background. Okay, but at least I have a note. Okay, so finished potential pool diagram. Let's just leave it at that, except for the legend, but I made a note. I made a thing for that. So now we will git push upstream master. Yep, and nobody got jinxed. I didn't jinx myself by saying, yeah, no problem, this will be easy. I did, however, use up nearly, 3.5 hours that took. 3.5 hours with a little break. But that's not too bad. I'm happy with this. I think this is great. I could even put, you know what I should do? I should put back the other one so that we have them both. And I can take the debug thing out. Yeah, take the debug style out. All right. Great. Very happy. So I'll commit that too real quick. Small tweaks, style content, push. There we go. All right, anybody have any questions or comments or anything about this work session? Let me know. And I'm going to wrap it up here in the next 5 or 10 minutes, wrap the stream up. If anyone also wants to raid anyone in particular, let me know that too. And I will, hey, let me run the credits if I can find them. I don't know that there's many credits to run. Or that they're even going to, there they come. I got one more follower of this stream. Thanks, Cond3P from Finland. So I appreciate it. It's been fun. I will be back later this week, I think either Thursday or Friday. I haven't decided. I will stream a big long stream on building HTML systems either Thursday or Friday.
Just a little note, when you start a raid, you have to wait about 5 or 6 seconds before you actually do the raid. You always cut off your last words. You say bye and log, and then you start the raid.
Okay. I will do that next time. Thank you.
Like through a walkie-talkie, you talk, you wait, and then you release the button, and then you.
I should say over. All right, over. I don't know who to. I don't know who to raid. There's nobody right now online I usually watch except Rocket Sage, but I raided her last time. Let me take a look here. No science. Only Rocket Sage is the science. But I guess I could send you guys to her. Anybody have any other suggestions? She's pretty fun. She's just chatting. I'm not sure what she's doing. We'll go there. Why not? Okay. Thanks again, you guys. Rock IT. This channel is intended for mature audience because she's a cursor. She curses, for sure. All right, so we'll head over there in 9 seconds. Tell her we said hi. She likes my name because it's the name of a mineral. So use your use the brain emote. Let her know where you came from. Thanks everybody. Take care. We'll see you on the next stream, which will be Thursday or Friday. Like I said, again, doing initial permanences and real receptive fields going on within the potential pools. Here we go. Take care. Wait 5 seconds.
Cool.
Bearer of the curse.
Riley, thanks for the
Where are
raid.
you?
How are you
The
doing?
next monarch.
Now,
Or